Okay, here's the story. All of us who have hunted lions with hounds have always heard the stories about uh, lions turning their scent off. And I used to joke around. We'd be trailing a lion and trailing pretty good, and then all of a sudden, the dogs just standing on their heads and they can't go anywhere. And I would joke around and say, "Hey, these are flying lions." The lion just walks on the ground so far, and then he decides to just fly away, and they can't trail him up through the sky. Anyway, and if you talk to any of the old timers, they'll all swear that lions can turn off their scent. And if you read Steve Smith's book, he talks about it. And I'm sure those of us who've trailed and hunted lions for any length of time have noticed that before you jump a lion out of his daytime bed, right before you get to him, the trailing just gets to nothing. I mean, it's hard. The dogs, and that's where good dogs that have caught a lot of lions, they start looking. They start spreading out and looking for that lion instead of just standing on their heads. Uh, I have a story about that. I was hunting with Mike Root, and we were up. I'd taken him. I'd caught a big tom lion off a kill the day before, 2 days before, and he had some hunters in from New York. And I called him. I said, "Hey, there's a big tom up here. I didn't kill him. I caught him out on a ledge. I think he's going to come back to that kill anyway." But anyway, he came out, brought his hunters. That lion didn't come back to his kill, but we kept hunting. We got up on top. We hunted. Dogs started trailing. We trailed off into this canyon, and those dogs got up on the side of the hill there, and in a little bit of bluffs there, and man, they weren't even opening up. They weren't even barking very much, and we were sitting there down in the bottom of the canyon just watching them. They're probably 150 yards away is all, and I was getting a little impatient. I wanted to, look at the country and say, "Hey, those lions went out through that next canyon over or whatever, and that saddle up there." And Mike told me, Mike just looked at me. He said, "No, no, let's just sit here. Let's just sit here." He knew his dogs and he knew what they were doing. And they were fairly quiet, but they were milling around, milling around. Every now and then a dog would bark, but not much. I mean, it was a lot of quiet, but they were milling. They were milling, milling. All of a sudden, wah 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 wah. There's a little tom lion up on top of a rock. They knew he was in there. They weren't open. They weren't trailing, and that lion had turned off his scent before he bedded down. Okay, this is the story I was talking about earlier on a Facebook post. I was going to type it out, but I do better on video than I do typing. My typing kind of sucks. Anyway, so me and my grandson, we loaded some dogs up in the buggy, and we went to some little old desert mountains out here. And I took them up. We got out, and we were just walking. We got up on top of this ridge, and we were walking. They were trailing. I mean, they were trailing fairly decent, and trailed around, trailed around, trailed. Never could finish the track out. Well, my grandson likes to call coyotes, so I told him. I said, "Let's jump these dogs back in the box and park this buggy on the other side of the mountain, and we'll go around here and get." He has one of those little Fox Pro coyote calls, and I said, "Let's set that call out over here and let's see if we can call a coyote in." So we set it up and let the coyote call. Call went forever. Nothing ever came in. We let it run for about 20 minutes, and we had our rifles, and said we hadn't shot our rifles in a while. I told my grandson, I said, let's pick out a rock on the other side of this little canyon and shoot at it and see, make sure that we're on. And the call was still going, and we were trying to decide, how it is, that we were both looking at the same rock. And he said, "That one right there." And I said, "Yeah, well, that one." Then he calls me Tita. He said, "Tita, Tita, there's a lion." And I looked, and I'll be dang, if that lion we'd been trailing earlier, I don't know where she had gone, but she had come over the hill back to that call. And of course, he said, "Should I shoot her?" And I said, "No, no, 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 no. Let's go get the dogs. Let's chase her." So We went all the way back. Probably took us, 15 minutes, 20 minutes to get back to the buggy, and then took us another 15, 20 minutes to get back there to where she was. And sure enough, those dogs come around the hill. They hit that track and wah, 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 wah. And they trailed up and over and down into this old sandy wash, and then back up the other side of this little mountain. Has these great big old boulders, and went through those boulders pretty good and everything. And then they got her jumped out of those boulders, and she ran up a canyon and into some bluffs, and she hung the dogs up in those bluffs. And she went through the bluffs, and they hung it up in there, and finally they worked their way out, and we're sitting up there right where we were, back where we were when we first seen her. And she went all the way up this canyon through those bluffs and then back down the other canyon. And those bluffs is where the dogs got hung up. And then here come the dogs down this other canyon, and we seen the lion. And she was probably, I don't know, 300 yards in front of the dogs. And there's a little old 2-track road that goes through there. She hit that 2-track road. She was running up until that time. She hit that 2-track road. She stopped in that 2-track road, and she kind of squatted down like this, stuck her head up, and looked back at those dogs. And when she left that 2-track road, her belly was probably about that far off the ground, and she was just sneaking, just like that. And she snuck, and we watched her till we couldn't see her anymore. When those dogs hit that 2-track road, they couldn't hardly smell her anymore. They hit that, and they milled, and they looked, and they milled, and they looked, and they couldn't hardly trail her anymore. I told my grandson, we just witnessed something that people say happens, but we actually got to see it happen. That lion turned off her scent. Now, did she turn off her scent? I think she just changed what she was doing. Instead of just, lollygagging around and walking, leaving a lot of scent, or running from the dogs and leaving a lot of scent. But when she went to sneaking, she didn't leave any scent. And we looked and looked, and we milled around. Finally, I found her tracks probably, 2 hours later, where she had left that country, left Arroyo, and took off across a Greasewood Flat, going to another set of hills, I guess. But yeah. Another thing, have you ever noticed when you're trailing a lion and say they're going to top out through a saddle, or they're going to top out over a canyon or over a ridge, and right before you get over the top, you can't hardly trail anymore. Those dogs get to milling and working and milling. And what do we do when we're hunting? Man, we're hunting. Right before we top over a ridge, we go to sneaking because we don't know what's over the next side right there. My theory, take it or leave it. There you go.